Hello everybody, Tetra here. Welcome to Creation Station. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about myself. This is different than most of my other videos, but it will still be game creation related. It's just going to be a little bit of myself and how I really got into game development. Now, I'm going to just start off by saying it was destiny for me to partake in game development as a hobby. It's something that should have been obvious a lot earlier, but there were some signs and eventually it came to be, and we're going to go into that today. Now, we're going to go back in time quite a bit here. In the early 90s was pretty blessed. My parents weren't rich, but we had enough money that I was able to play video games. Now I was a bit of a different child, I guess I'll say. People didn't know a whole lot about autism back in the day, and because of that, the way I thought and seen the world was very different. I was very fascinated by electronics, technology, and video games caught my attention and drew me in. I learned to read through video games. I'm not going to say school was completely worthless, but I did a lot more learning outside of school, and that's basically an understatement. I nearly learned everything from real life experiences. School played very little part in anything, but video games were there. I was naturally an artist, and I got a hold of Mario Paint for the Super Nintendo in the 90s. Many of you guys may know what I'm talking about. It had the old school ball mouse that you plugged into your console. It was a weird grayish mouse with purple buttons. And I spent way too many hours on Mario Paint. I loved creating animations. I loved making music. I wish I could have made pages to color on and stuff, but I even played the Fly Swatter game a ridiculous amount. And, it was kind of a sign, but should have noticed it earlier. Too young to notice it. You know how it is. But eventually, 3D gaming would come. Warzone, WWF, now WWE game had came out, had to create a character. Right off the bat, first thing I did is went in to create a character. Once again, probably a pretty big sign, but still didn't, realize anything weird about it. I became a skater. I'd played Tony Hawk Pro Skater. That was a big changing point in my life. Tony Hawk 2 comes out. Once again, character creator, but this had a stage creator. And I remembered a game that I never got to make stages in, Quake 2. Big old book in Walmart that I seen, really wanted to do it, never got the chance. But Tony Hawk 2, I was able to create stages for skateboarding. I was able to create a skater. And I was really big into it. I 100%ed the game relatively quick and went on to spend the rest of the year creating stages and creating characters, and I mean, pretty religiously. Now, a couple years after this, I would meet somebody, and this is a very important part of my life because I'm showing the signs that I'm a huge creative soul. I was a natural born artist and everything. I really liked video games. Really like, just creating things and having ideas for, video games. I met someone and his dad was a bit of a nerd. He was a bit of a nerd. His dad was building computers and stuff. They had consistent internet access. And we would skate throughout the day and we'd stay all night at each other's houses. And one night I was over at his house and I came across a RPG making program. It was basically regular Nintendo, but it was called Toolkit. And I remember the first time I messed around with it and downloaded it, it became apparent to me right away that I really wanted to create video games. This was a pivotal moment because it wasn't long after that I would get my hands on a used copy of Photoshop, and I would eventually re get internet access at my home, and that would lead me down my game creation path, the journey I would go on and still am on. Now, when I would get internet, RPG Maker was what I ended up going with. They were actually not just like the PlayStation 1 and the PS2. We're talking like XP and VX. I'd be getting into those and a game engine called Game Maker, which was mostly 2D platforming. I did see that it could do 3D, but it didn't seem like it was developed enough to be worthwhile. Anyways, I used those religiously. I mean, I made so many things and tinkered around with it and did a lot of skateboarding by day. I still don't sleep as much as what I should, but I really didn't sleep much as a kid. If I could have, I would have probably started skating at 10 a.m. and not stopped until probably pretty much until I couldn't see anymore. It was night out, and then I would go in and just make games all night. Make games, play games, mostly make games if I could have. That's literally what I would have did. You know, I had some girlfriends, I would have tossed them aside really easy, just got rid of them to make video games. There was nothing I would rather do pretty much than make games and skate all the time, every day. If I was young, I'd probably still feel that same way. Not as young as I look. Now, I would do this for years, and basically, it was a lot of 2D projects and everything. I would like to have done 3D, but at the time, it wasn't as accessible as it is now. But eventually I would stop. Everything would come to a halt. I had some things going on in my life, made some mistakes, stopped skating, didn't play video games. This was around 2011, and everything just kind of fell apart. I didn't really do things as I normally would for quite a while. So keep in mind, no skating, no video games, no game creation. Didn't really mess with art or anything. From around the time Skyrim came out, I played it, but I had played Oblivion, and it was basically just a remake with a different skin, and I got bored of it really quick. And that was one of the last games I played before I just stopped playing games and stuff. Like I said, I had something that came up in 2018. I decided that, I was basically a casual gamer at best, playing games casually at other people's houses, not really doing anything on my own, not really spending, hours every day playing games. I was lucky to play games at all on a weekly or even monthly basis sometimes. So what ends up happening, 2018 comes around. uh, I'm basically getting back on my feet. I've been back on my feet, I guess, for a little bit at that point. Everything straightens out. My mom gets diagnosed with cancer. I'm playing Black Ops 3, and I noticed you can make stages on there. Well, who would have guessed that this would grab me? I would really like to make stages, but I still had some things going on in my life, new things now with my mom being sick. But I'd worked so hard to get my life straightened up that I kind of did what I could for her, but kept my mind straight and looked into game engines, and I found Blender to make assets with. I think it was like 2.7. Downloaded it, got Unreal Engine 4 because I'd noticed the whole pricing thing had disappeared, and they were going to let you basically make the game and then they would charge you afterwards, which is pretty cool. And people kept recommending Unity, Eventually, I would switch over to Unity. This is probably mid 2019. I would switch to Unity. And I wouldn't say it was a mistake. It was good because Unreal Engine 4 did hold my hand quite a bit, and I needed to really learn some things that Unreal Engine was going to do for me, and that just wasn't good as a beginner. Now, Unity was doing some pretty sketchy stuff. They were in communication with people that were probably doing more than just innocently seeing what you were doing. They were talking about movies and stuff. Really didn't seem like they were thinking about the game creation side of things much. And it wasn't super noticeable at first, but the documentation was sketchy. They were splitting up the pipeline, and I don't know about you, but I don't know how it makes sense that you could be more creative if everything's not all in one place and able to be used at one time. The Wii U with its tablet controller, maybe I wanted to use my phone as a map and make games that way, and Unity was not going to make that easy by splitting the pipelines up. It just didn't seem like a good idea. It was one of the major turning off points when that was going on. Like I said, the documentation was bad. They had a team that was working on a project. They were going to make this game. It was going to be 100% free. You were going to be able to play it, open it up, see how people that were, knowledgeable with the engine were using it. Really great stuff. They got rid of those guys. I hopped out of Unity, looked at some game engines, and I'd noticed Godot the first time around before I used Unreal Engine 4. Seeing it was open source, seeing the people were serious, that they were going from Godot 3 to 4, and it was going to be 3D and made for the current gen as soon as possible with things like auto LOD. So I was like, all right, cool, uh, mom had passed away later in 2018, so that had long passed at this point. Yeah, like I said, I think it was like 2022. I hopped out. I had got a girlfriend and stuff, and just kind of took a break, waiting for Godot to come out. And Godot finally comes out with the alpha. I'll admit I was a little disappointed, but I had been making games for years, and I really wanted something long term to make these 3D games on. During my RPG Maker days, there were some websites like RPG Revolutions and them, and I was making games for those guys and stuff. And over time, each game I'd make, I'd have more stuff to use for the next game, and I would just keep building more and more assets up. And I wanted to do the same thing in 3D. So what ends up happening, it comes out, not impressed with it, but I knew it, it was going to get better. It was just going to take time. The betas come out. Things improve quite a bit. The first version of Godot comes out, and I was like, all right, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. It's still not perfect, but it's good enough that I know in the long run it's going to be worth sticking around with. So I do a little bit more research and what the team's up to, and everything looks good. Uh, I can't remember when, but Unity had its big thing where they were gonna have to start shifting away from the multiple pipelines, and they were wanting to charge people per download and stuff like that of their game. And I remember looking and feeling sorry for people because I had hopped away from Unity and was in Godot learning it throughout the alpha, and was now like starting to really get into stuff that now that the editor was ready to go, because the 1.0 was good enough that even the stuff that I thought I knew that they had done revisions for, like, it didn't matter. I knew enough about the engine to navigate around that things moved pretty quickly. It wasn't very long. They were updating it. Version 3 of Godot, I would have to say, is really where things, got really good. A lot of things were polished. A lot of features that were missing were finally either ready to be added in or were already added in. But I felt really bad for the people in Unity because they were in a mess. They were probably going to have to start over and re-import all their assets at best, and Unity just didn't seem to have the community around them, which a pretty big community and dedicated community that they just treated pretty poorly by not putting them first. And I mean, as a company, you would think they'd want to make money. The people who make them money should be the people they're making happy, so they want to continue spending money. I don't know, it just kind of makes sense to me that way. Like, it kind of reminds me when Capcom started releasing Resident Evil games that were more shooter than horror, and they did well. One of them sold well, and then they like started going downhill. And it's like maybe you should just make Resident Evil games and not make your games more, I guess, military focused would be something. I don't really know what they were going for. Like RE6 was pretty horrible, but you kind of got to make games for the people buying your games if you're making successful games and you change it up. But Unity was doing that, and Godot still hasn't went that direction yet. Let's pray they don't. But I'm really happy to be on Godot. We're almost to current day. We're still a couple years off. So to move on, because I kind of rambled for a minute, uh, 3.0 Godot, really good. It was kind of a hooray moment for me because I'd spent a lot of time getting back uh, from that year off. Blender 3.0 came out, and I'm not big on layout changes, and Blender does a lot of layout changes, so I had to learn that and get used to that. And of course, I was getting used to Godot, so it took a minute to get started, but I did it. By the time 3.0 Godot came around, I was used to Blender 3.0. I was starting to build up some assets. I was learning GD script pretty quick, so I'd already knew C sharp. Now, I wasn't like super good at C sharp, but I was like intermediate. I'm still kind of intermediate. I only learn the stuff I need to know to do what I'm wanting to do. Probably not the best thing, but that's just kind of how I am with stuff. If I don't need to know it, I don't bother until I have a reason. I do look into stuff though to make sure I'm not missing out on things, but it would seem that at least 75% of the time I'm not really missing out on anything right away. Uh, Current day, we're going to go ahead and skip up to current day. I decided to make a YouTube channel not long ago. Now, I had been wanting to make a YouTube channel ever since the RPG Maker days, but it just wasn't something that was in the cards, and I didn't really see it as a way to make money. I'm still not kind of really seeing it as a viable way to make money, which is fine. If it gets there, it gets there. If it don't, it don't. I think the thing I really enjoyed from the past was showing stuff off on the websites for RPG Maker. And even if it was not all good criticism, and there were some people who definitely didn't like what I was putting out, being able to just put it out there for people to see really felt good. It really was cool to see people interact with the things I was making. So YouTube just kind of seemed like a good idea over the past year to start up. I have multiple channels actually. Uh, I set up 3 channels for basically each having their own challenge. I had to choose between Minecraft and Roblox, and I chose Roblox. And I think it has just more diverse stuff to do. And I chose it because its challenge is there's a lot of competition, a lot of talented YouTubers. So to build myself up, it would teach me a bit of how to compete on the YouTube side of things with my content. Creation Station, what you're watching right now. I It's a bit different. It's a niche audience, and I mean I do have some talents and stuff, so my stuff might stand out a little bit, but it's more of a challenge to get people who are probably just mostly looking up tutorials and not as much interested on just clicking on random game creations to actually view your channel. So I see that as a challenge in itself. And my last channel, which is bombed to put it lightly so far, and that's TTS, my Tetra Topics channel. Talk about AI, aliens. I'd like to talk about psychology and stuff on there. And I have to be charismatic, and there's nothing else going on. It's all eyes on me. So those were kind of things I thought that would be good goals to try to overcome and have a little bit of fun while I'm doing the whole YouTube thing. And I'm going to be producing more content, and hopefully my skills because of those obstacles I need to overcome will improve and give you guys better content. I would like you guys to like and subscribe because I want as many people to be inspired as possible and see the stuff I put out, the ideas I have, and like I've my ideas were inspired by other people. I take no credit for anything. And I would like people to, hear about my journey, like I'm telling you guys right now, be inspired, see my content, if they want to take ideas from it, go for it. The more games we get out there for people to play, that's a win for everybody. And I'd like to see more hobbyists too just come up with some weird stuff to show everybody things that nobody's ever seen before. Back in the day, we used to see that stuff in gaming all the time. The technology got better, but really the innovation has fell off a cliff. And in the future, I would really like to show people that, you can use an idea and build on it. It doesn't have to necessarily stay super close to what it originally was. But I figured making this video, you guys may have a completely different experience, got into making games completely different. Maybe some of you guys don't even play games, but you're just interested in creating stuff. That's still cool. So hopefully you watch the, content and appreciate it. And if you guys are making content and stuff, leave a comment. I'd like to see what you guys are up to as well. It's you know, one thing to post my stuff up on there, I do look at what other people are creating, and I want to be inspired. So going forward and everything with the channel, I'm going to be producing tutorials, but I won't be doing a bunch of tutorials. I will do tutorials for people who would like to have me show them some basic things, but I will still be doing mostly my traditional content where I'm just showing you guys the stuff I'm working on. It doesn't matter if you're just interested in the tutorials or if you're just interested in seeing what I'm up to. That's up to you. It's perfectly fine. Hopefully this video just gives you a little bit of insight on the type of person I am and how, the whole gaming thing and creation of games and all that came into my life. It's probably not normal, but it is what it is. And I think this pretty much wraps everything up that I really wanted to tell you guys. I don't really suspect there will be many videos, if any other videos like this one on this channel. It's just kind of my own little documentary of myself. Something light, not super long, and I just kind of like to get it out there in case you guys do wonder who the guy on the screen is talking to you guys. Like, I wouldn't blame you for being a little bit curious. But hopefully you guys have a good night. Hopefully I see you guys back to check, and see what I'm posting up. Like I said, leave comments. If you've got a channel or something, let me know in the comments and I'll check out your channel and see what's going on. Leave you a comment, a like. If you want me to subscribe, I'll subscribe to your channel. We'll help each other out. Get our content out there to as many people as possible. But I'm going to go ahead and hop off here for tonight. You guys have a good night. I'll see you later.